unique place in general where he's probably not aging as gracefully as the other artists who are his age.
It's looking very Russell Westbrook like right now.
Yeah,
it's looking very James Harden-ish right now.
I would say
not even as good as James Harden. It's looking very Westbrook like.
It's looking very Paolo Prigioni.
A little Andrea Bargnani.
Yeah, yes.
Like it's looking. I'm gonna say this genuinely. It's looking pretty washed right now.
He's
looking washed.
Good afternoon, beautiful people. This is another episode of Album Mode. We review a new album every single week. We look at the lyrics, the production, the overall aesthetic of the album, and how that album fits into the context of that artist's career. For everyone watching on YouTube, make sure you like this video, share it with your people, and of course, make sure you're subscribed. My name is Adriel Smiley, aka AdrielSmiley.com, aka Adriel Smiley Official, aka The Godfather. We're here with His Royal Highness, aka the Bunny, aka the Munch, King Grant.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're back. We're back. Somehow the Munch has become part of my AKAs, but we're back. This time it's with Kanye West. Vulture 2.
Mm-hmm.
I am surprised this album even exists. Okay, this is something that I genuinely, and when I say genuinely, I mean genuinely, did not think was ever going to come out, considering how erratic Kanye West is as just like a person, let alone his release cycle, let alone the amount of albums that have just been canceled. Wolves, TurboGrafx, I don't know, I'm trying to think of Cruel Summer, etc. So Yandhi, right? So I just seriously did not think that this album would ever exist. And after listening to it, I don't even think he thought it was going to exist, because there's literally songs that are incomplete, have incomplete lyrics, are just incomplete. So I honestly, when this dropped, I was actually surprised that it exists. I'm gonna put it out there.
I would say I wasn't as surprised, because this had been rumored of being done when Vultures 1 was done. Excuse me. So I was like, okay, at least there's something else that's finished. Us actually getting the project, you're right, a complete different story. And, I would say at the top of this year, it was confirmed that there's a Vultures 2 and a Vultures 3. So I was like, these exist. Will we get them? Different story. Now, I got to say, we got to start with going back to Vultures 1 in our review. And we talked about putting Kanye in the NBA Youngboy zone.
Yeah.
Where we no longer review an artist's music, because this is not particularly good.
Yeah, or there's nothing, it's not very good, and also it is not changing to the point that it needs to be referenced.
Yeah, and the other artist who we have in the Youngboy zone is Nav.
Yeah.
And we were contemplating putting Kanye in that zone. I think it was like a tentative thing where it's like he can make his way out, but for now, he's possibly in there.
Yeah.
Do you remember what score you gave Vultures 1?
I think that was a 3. It might have been a 3, maybe a 4, but I think it's a 3.
You gave it a 2.5.
Okay.
I gave it a 4.
Okay. Generous.
Yeah, and thinking about that project, I'm trying to look at this as an actual trilogy.
Okay.
It's hard to do that. It feels like there's not really a through line here all the way, but I'm trying to think of this project as a trilogy where he said a third one's coming. There's a second one on here. So how does this match up to the first one? Now, off the first listen, I said a lot of these were definitely made at the same time.
Yeah.
There's a lot of similar production things he does on this project and the last project that make me think, okay, these are recorded around the same time. But after the first listen, where I was at with this project is, I think Kanye as a rapper is at the worst he's ever been.
Yeah, it's genuinely the worst it's ever been.
And we said that on the last project, but I think on
this
it's even more clear. And what I want to say is like, I try to take myself out of being critical of his raps for this review, because I think that is something that really, really hurts how you listen to his music, because he has some of the most iconic hip-hop songs in hip-hop history. Some of the best raps in hip-hop history. And so to have an album like this where it's just basically struggle raps for
almost an hour.
Yeah, for almost an hour, it kind of makes it hard for you to be like, okay, what is happening here? Is this good? Is this not? And I tried to give him that leeway because we just reviewed someone who also was a struggle rapper in Ice Spice, and I think that Kanye is a victim of going against what he's done in the past.
Yeah, I wholly disagree. I think that first of all, Ice Spice feels like when I listen to Ice Spice music, I know where it's like going, and there's actually some sort of like direction thematically with her music. And I've gotten to this point now with Kanye's music, and part of the reason why I wanted to review this because I was on board with putting it in the NBA Youngboy zone, but it has gotten so tragically bad that I'm like, we need to review this shit. It has gotten to the point where I'm like,
Wow.
I cannot believe Kanye West. If you really think about the story of Kanye West and his music, how he used to be known as somebody that would make an album, right? Then they would scrap the album and then remake an album, right? Like the first album was the practice album.
Yep.
For when now we're making the real album. Something like 808s and Heartbreaks was like that.
Yep.
And My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy was like, they were in that place for like weeks making the album. To get to a point now where it feels as though, again, it's not complete. Like 530, and I guess we should start with the lyrics. 530, first of all, is, I think this has been like confirmed online. It's like they ripped a YouTube video and spit that out as like a legit song. It runs at 128 kilobytes per second.
Insane. Like
that is actually, I just cannot believe. First, I can't believe a professional artist would do that. But then Kanye West, considering again his previous work, how seriously he took his previous work, to be reduced to YouTube rips, and I think 530 is the song where he is literally at the point he's mumbling. He's mumbling the lyrics, right? Where it's just genuinely, I can't believe how bad it is. That's why I wanted to review it, because it's not because like, oh, it's bad, ha ha ha. It's like actually like, whoa, I cannot believe somebody who is probably one of the most like influential artists in hip hop history releasing like garbage. Like this is actually bad.
530 to me was a song that reminded me of an actual other Kanye song, which is probably one of his best songs that was ever on a project, White Dress, which is also about Kim Kardashian. And when I heard 530, I said, this is the kind of the right direction I want Kanye to go in. I think like White Dress is one of my favorite Kanye songs that was never on a project. And this song, the tone of it, his use of the sample, I like this direction of Kanye. This is a space where rap is not always doing this. He can do this well. But I think that him choosing these unfinished songs and releasing them is like a different level of uncertainty that I just can't enjoy as a music fan.
Yeah.
When The Life of Pablo came out, that was a huge deal. That was probably the first time he was, editing songs as they were coming out, redoing the songs, putting out a new version of the song. And at that time, it was cool. We said, "Oh my God, look! He changed the drums here. I got the new version," and it was cool. Now, not so cool, and it has a whole different tone to it when it feels like, okay, this is like the version of the song that you didn't need to release. There's another version that could have been finished of this song. So I think that's where it hurts him in a sense. But one thing that it remains from this Vultures to Vultures 1 is Ty Dolla Sign carrying.
Yes.
Like
it's like not even close.
and why I mentioned of like me taking his lyrical ability out of it is like we're doing Ty Dolla Sign a disservice by focusing on Kanye's lyrical ability and lack of lyrical ability at this point. When it's like these songs, these were all Ty Dolla Sign songs that featured insert rapper X.
Yeah.
And this was a Ty Dolla Sign album, we would give this a high score.
Yeah.
And it's like because Kanye is such a big star and what he's done away from music,
he's also on the cover.
Looms large. We're focused on Kanye, and on most of these songs, Ty is more on the song than Kanye is. On some of these songs, the production, the like skeleton of it is not horrible. And so I think the focus on Kanye, it takes the actual attention away from the good parts of these songs, which is unfortunately not Kanye. And so I think like in this review, I'm trying to give Ty his credit because we gave him his credit on the last one.
Yeah.
He was carrying all these songs, but I think of a song like Slide as the intro. it's like that first minute and a half. I'm like, okay, Ty, where are you going with this? Like, I didn't love some of these bars. She loves taking selfies. I'm like, where are we going with this? Then once that beat drops, I'm like, oh, if this was an album where singles were coming out, this would have been a single.
Yeah.
And it's like Kanye, I don't want to say he ruins all of these songs.
He does. Yes, he does. Bro.
But I think that he just can't, he's not a fit-in type of artist. He's always been that way, even when he was on his huge feature run in the late 2000s. When he comes on a song and you hear his voice, his cadence, noticeable right away. He's not an artist that just fits in and everything else fits in around him. It's like he crashes into a song and creates all this debris everywhere. And I think that is what hurts this album more, is not actually his rapping itself, because Ty Dolla $ign is not lyrical himself.
True.
And so you have two guys who are not lyrical, and we're only mad about one guy who's not lyrical. It's like those two guys are not lyrical, and we're just highlighting the one guy.
Yeah, but it's Kanye. His lyrics are like almost elementary school, and this is on slide 2, so I'm right there with you, where he's like, but I slide in it like a drive-by. The industry don't like me. Tell them pussy niggas likewise. They tried to hit me with the side nod. Nice try. Get up. Right? I just think that he's gone to this, like, he gets to this point where, like, I feel like like a 6th grader, 7th grader raps like that, you know?
I really feel like this is just like the Kanye effect, because we've reviewed rappers who don't even have the likewise side night type of bars, you know? No, it's true. It's like this is elementary for Kanye.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I realized from this album, and going back to listen to Vultures 1 again, is like, he's one of the artists where you just can't remove that. I think some artists, it's like you can find a way to live in the moment of what the music is. Kanye, that's basically impossible. And that's part of the review, because we're not the only ones listening to it like that. Like, Kanye's an artist we all grew up with. We've seen what he's done outside of music. So hearing this, again, I was focusing on, let's say that these were all Ty Dolla $ign songs and these were all different rappers.
Okay.
Let's just say it's not all one rapper. This song featured Young Thug. This song featured whoever else.
The Young Thug song is pretty good.
And I think, like, musically, there's a lot of good stuff happening on here. I think the actual ideas on here is like, yeah, Kanye probably, it's funny, we're almost having the same review over again, but we said this last time, is like, he's more a producer at this point.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, you have this cool idea here, find the right person to go on it. And that right person is probably not you. And it's like, I think it was on like Fried. That was where I was like, he's running some of these same ideas back. Like the chant in the background, which is very much a la Carnival.
Yeah.
And the distorted drums. It's like, it worked the first time, you came back with it. But this idea of the chorus where his cadence is like rhyming with the Fried part, it's like, that's not actually bad. I think it's just, it would be better if someone else did it.
Yeah.
And I think when it comes to hip hop, we rarely have that feeling. I think that's more something we feel like in pop and R&B and country, where you hear a certain vocalist and you're like, someone who could sing better would kill this. We talked about that a lot of Post Malone, where almost this whole album we're like, someone else would sing all these songs better. To have that feeling in hip hop is absolutely so rare, especially when Kanye has had people writing for him for the past decade or so, where it's like, here you can tell that's not happening. And it's like, go get those writers.
Yeah, find those people.
Bring them back, because
get them to do the song.
Because Fried is a song that I like a lot on here, where I was like, yeah, like, this is just almost gonna suffer by being a Kanye song. Some other people I think will like it being a Kanye song and like his tone on it. But I think about the part in the song where he's kind of yelling and he's like, Fried!
Oh my God, that's so garbage. It's
like,
so bad. It's actually so bad.
I don't think that's actually bad. I don't hate that, but I think because he's done that so many times before and his voice is so iconic, it has a totally different tone.
Yeah, I think that there's that one of the biggest issues with Kanye on this album is overuse, like repetitive, like tropes, like the ultra singing, like we mentioned in Carnival. Here's the thing with that, right? When 21 Savage whispered on a song, we were like, oh, that's really unique. That's really interesting. He's never done that before, right? Then he did it again, right? And we're like, oh, it's back. But the thing is, the first time he did it and the second time he did it, it was like 2-3 years had passed. he had made so many songs,
Mhm.
so many different motifs, versions of 21 Savage that you hear it again, you're like, he's doing it
It's
again.
back, yeah.
Right? We just heard the Ultras doing this shit like 3 months ago. Okay? It wasn't long ago that we were like, oh, this is a cool idea, cool concept. And then we're already hearing it again twice on this album. He does it twice on this album. And we already heard it once only a few months ago.
Yeah.
So that overuse is like, it's old. It's already old. Like
it got old quick, and
Yeah.
it's funny because what I have in my notes is two things. One, it's funny you mentioned 530. I have in my notes that I like that song, but would be better with a better rapper, which is, where we've gotten to. And then secondly, Kanye has brought himself into the morass of everybody else. I think for most of his career, it was like he's over here, kind of going over the hill first, the innovator, showing everyone how to do things.
Yeah.
The past 3 projects, including this one, he's like, nah, I'm with y'all. We gonna stand together. I'm in the morass with everybody else. And that's never been Kanye.
That's true.
And I think that when I talk about like he's suffering from his own celebrity, his own past, that's exactly what I mean, where some artists have spent their whole career in the morass. I think about Future. Future lives there. That's like, he has a home in the morass. Like, look, they live there, and we're giving Future all these high marks and not kind of giving him a little bit of shit for not doing that when that's where he lives. And Kanye is someone who it's like, if you asked us 10 years ago, would Kanye ever be in the morass like this?
We would have been like, he would have stopped making music at some point.
But even if it wasn't good music, we would say he's still never going to be with everybody else. I think of an album like Yeezus that people didn't love. It's like, I might not have loved Yeezus,
but
it was different. So to see Kanye at this point in his career, album after album, like sounding like everybody else in a sense, it's like, that's so unusual for what we're used to. And then the other song that I really like is Lifestyle with him and Lil Wayne.
Oh, okay. You like that?
Yeah.
Bro, we're on 2 different wavelengths about this, bro.
I think that he does that same thing where it's that like vocal sample as part of the beat that he did with Hood Rat on the first Vultures. And again, we just heard this. So it gives more of like, you just did this. And again, I liked Hood Rat and you didn't.
Yeah.
So I guess it works for me again.
Yeah.
And it didn't work for you the first time, it didn't work the second time type of deal.
Where's this time? Because I'm like, what, the Lil Wayne feature? I'm like, this is not working for me.
And I like the Lil Wayne feature on here because similar to the Ice Spice project, not a lot of like rapping on here. He has a lot of the trap rappers like Designer, Future, Lil Durk, Young Thug.
Young Thug track again. That's pretty good. I like Young Thug.
Young Thug track is good, but I think that Kanye's in a space where he used to be adjacent to the conscious rap, real traditional hip hop.
Yeah.
He's gone from that. Like that is like non-existent in his music. So even though Lil Wayne is not considered conscious hip hop or like the most lyrical to some people, on this project, like Lil Wayne sounds like Black Thought. And so I like Lifestyle for that reason of like, this is a production style that is way less boisterous, more chill. And Dolla Ign on this record absolutely eats. And I feel so bad for Ty because Ty is one of the most talented people in this genre.
Yeah.
Has shown his versatility and doing so many different kinds of songs. And it's like his last album we didn't actually love as much, his last solo project. It was a very more single heavy than what he's traditionally done before.
But you know what? Some of the songs on that made the playlist. A lot of songs on that made a playlist for me.
From the Ty album, right?
Yeah.
And Ty's been one of my favorite artists for a long time, and I feel like he's been like criminally underrated because people hear like a certain single and think that's all he does. And I think it was on like Blase that he had back in the day, which with him and I think it was him and Ray Shremmerd.
Yeah.
And it's like that song banked. If you were outside of that time, you know what happened when that song came out. But that doesn't really show what Ty is capable of and the versatility he has. And a song like Lifestyle is like, again, if this was a Ty Dolla Ign record and you just took Kanye out of it, the beat's the exact same, and it's just Ty and Lil Wayne, totally different tone to this record. And Kanye is like, he's just shitting all over everything. And it gives all these songs a different tone. And because he comes on in most songs before Ty Dolla Ign comes in, by the time Ty comes in, you've already felt a certain way about the record. And I'm trying my best to take Kanye out of it, but the record is a record with Kanye in it. And so I'm saying Ty is absolutely killing it. And some of these ideas, I think, is production-wise, some of these ideas are Kanye ideas. Like, Ty doesn't have a lifestyle production-wise in his catalog.
Yeah.
You know, like, you can't really see Ty doing that on his own. But he sounds great on it. Lil Wayne sounds great on it. But Ty and Lil Wayne probably wouldn't do that song on their own. So in that sense, I'm like, Kanye the producer, still very good. Kanye the lyricist, the rapper, the vocalist
needs to retire. Genuinely. And I'm not even like being I do think he needs to. I do think the rapper
here's
version
why I want to stop
retire.
you. I'm not gonna go straight. He needs to retire, but he needs to be in the Dr. Dre zone. Dr. Dre was like, I'm not gonna rap on every song I make. You know, some songs I make, I may just have a bridge because my voice fits here. That's Kanye. Sometimes his voice fits, it cuts through, it helps the song, but not always. And I think he's in the mode now where like, I'm gonna find a way for my voice to fit here.
Yeah.
It's like, no. Like, some songs don't need you. And so I don't know if he should retire completely from rapping, but he needs to be more in that Timbaland, Pharrell, Dr. Dre zone where it's like, when it's time for me to come in,
you do one hook, one bridge, you're done.
You know, I think about Sexy Back with Timberlake and Timbaland just doing the, sometimes that's enough. Sometimes that's enough. And Kanye, I think, can still do that at least.
Yeah, I think I do agree with that. I think that's true, but I think that's really just an extension of your production, unless it is like the bridge or like a hook or something like that. And I think that when Kanye is involved in literally any of these songs, he brings so much baggage to the song now. Like, so much of like how you view Kanye, how tuned into Kanye happenings are you, tuned into Kanye's like actual life. Any of that, like anytime he appears on the song, it drags all of that baggage into the song. And then when he is honestly lyrically this is literally the worst. Like I can't stress that enough. This is the worst Kanye West has ever rapped in his entire life.
Yes.
To also bring all that baggage, it just creates this mountain of baggage. Like Ty Dolla Ign just has to climb just so people can see him.
Yeah, every time
in the song, but he has to do that every song, right? So there's this element of Ty Dolla Ign almost not even being like, he kind of like exists as an accessory, even though he's like it seems as though he's supposed to be like a full member of this duo. He seems as almost like an accessory. He's like, oh, but just in case, you know, I know he said that part, but listen to what I have to say. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that's my biggest issue. You know, Ty Dolla Ign, shout to him for somehow salvaging any fucking song that exists on this project. But I'm at the point now where I think if there's a Vultures 3, you need to step away. Like, you need to figure out how to get Kanye to make a Sign 1 or Sign 2.
Screaming.
Sign 3.
Yeah, have him EP the new Ty Dolla Ign album.
Exactly, because it's gotten to this point now where I don't even like, how does one maneuver around Kanye West when it's his project now? I don't even know how he does that. Because just even think about it, he did the remix of the Kendrick Lamar diss. Right, he brought in the vocals again from the Inter Ultras as well, and that happened. And then everybody just walked away. We're just like, I'm not fucking with that.
Everyone's like, I'm leaving it alone.
Yeah, right. So for him to be included with his nemesis, Drake is his nemesis, basically, and everybody to be like, you're over there. Nobody wants even that baggage in an instance like that. And then when he's releasing his own music, it's like it just feels like more baggage. Like, I just don't understand how he can go forward as an artist. I really don't. And with it being as bad as it is now, I don't see a way forward, honestly.
I think there actually still is a way forward, because artistically he's doing, in a sense, what we've asked so many artists to do in terms of actually talking about their life. And I think maybe what his life entails is almost too much baggage, where it's like, if we didn't know these things publicly and we only heard it on the project, different vibe. But I think hearing him tweet about it, rant about it, talk about it other places, hearing on the project, it has a different tone.
Yeah.
And it kind of reminds me of Meg Thee Stallion, where she's rapping about what we're hearing about in the tabloids.
Yep.
And it's like, again, because it's a woman that has a different tone to it. But I think like if we didn't hear about these things and she told us about these things in her music, we were like, oh wow, like that's interesting. That's. I think Kanye is the same way because I think about all the artists we've mentioned who we know nothing about them. Like they don't tell us about their life, what's going on. Kanye at least is still doing that. But I think he's just not doing a good job of that, which is like what you want as an artist ages is like, tell me about what you're going through. Tell me about what's going on. And he has a part of that on here. The one song that I do want to highlight, because I think this is like this is the song I think of when I say like we're totally like it's like we can't give Kanye like an objective look, is Sky City.
Okay.
And I'm like, Sky City comes in as like a very much guitar driven track. Dolla ign, I think, sounds great over that kind of production. Now, again, this is one of those songs where Kanye's rapping is not the best. Not the best. But Saha the Prince on this song absolutely kills. And I think this is a song where on another rapper's album that Kanye's in the morass with now, we would be like, oh my gosh, this is like different for you. And it's like, again, I think of if Lil Durk had a song like Sky City, we'd be like, oh my goodness, Durk, this is what you're doing? And Kanye, even though he's more in the morass than he's ever been, it's songs like this that I'm like, we're taking him for granted. Because we listen to albums every week that are almost the same song over and over again. And that's not this project. So production-wise, I'm like, yes, I could do a lot less of the Kanye rapping. I'm definitely noticing you're doing some of the same tropes that you did 6 months ago. But I still have to give that artistic merit to this album is not all one sound. It's not all one beat. Right. It's not all the same. And you're trying these things and collaborating with people in a way that works. The Young Thug track that you mentioned, River, I like that song a lot. He samples Leon Bridges with River at the end of it. I thought that was a pretty cool move from him. But I think that all these things that he's doing that I like individually, it's like it's not executed the same way. And when you talked about him being the artist who would scrap a whole album as a practice album and do it again, it's clear he's not doing that anymore. Because I think some of these things that I'm highlighting, if he kind of refined it how you mentioned he's done before, much, much better. And so it's like a lot of these songs are just giving unrefined.
Yeah.
The actual idea of it and the skeleton of what you're trying to do musically, there's a few songs where I'm like, this is just a bad idea in general. Like the one song that's like that is Bomb for me, which I was like, this is a bad idea in general. There's no world where this was a good idea.
Get the kids off your project, bro.
Yeah, like the beat, the kids, like.
Yeah.
But songs like River, Sky City, even 530, it's like the skeleton of what you're trying to do, it's a good idea. Like this idea is good. You didn't execute it well, but it's like when someone does a crossover and it goes out of bounds, you're like, that was a good move. You didn't do it well, but the in and out dribble would have worked. So that's where I'm at with him is like, I don't know how to rate him because I've seen him make it work. And it really reminds me of Ice Spice, which we literally just reviewed, because Ice Spice, we didn't even have any expectations she could do any of this stuff. So her even doing a skeleton of it, you're like, amazing. Kanye is someone we've seen execute something to a T and be the best at it in the entire world. So you just having this cool idea doesn't hold the same weight. When someone like an Ice Spice, you having this cool idea is like, oh, look at you with a cool idea. So it's like, also you can't rate them equally. There are different parts in their career. But I think that he's a bit of that where he's almost regressed heavily where it's like, all you have is a cool idea.
Yes, I agree.
Not executed. The rapping is not great. The message, what message?
Yeah, what message? Oh my God, what message?
Is not there. But again, so many of the artists that we review, even the ones that we like, going from someone like Benny the Butcher to 21 Savage to even Meg Thee Stallion, is like, those artists have such a homogenous sound in their music and they're just kind of sticking to what they know, where even at this stage in his career, being the worst rapper he's ever been, there's still that experimentation of, let me try this different idea. Let me try this different tempo.
Yeah, I agree. But then there's songs like Fried where it's like, we literally just did this.
We literally just did it.
We literally just did this. So he's gotten to that point where even the skeleton is the same skeleton that you brought in last week. You know, like
it is. And you know what? I've been thinking about this a lot with this project, because as I was getting ready for this review, I thought of all the artists who people say sound homogenous. Like someone like Yeat, for example. People who aren't Yeat fans, it's like every song sounds the same. And it's like, how do we parse between this one song sound like this other one song to an artist who people feel like these 10 songs sound like the other 10 songs.
Right.
And it's like, which is worse? Somehow this is more noticeable and feels worse. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But in the end, it's like, we've reviewed how many albums where we're like, you did this song on the last project.
Right.
This is probably the first Yeet project where that doesn't feel as much. But some of the artists who we like a lot, it's like, these 20 songs are the same 20 songs from 2 years ago.
Yeah, I think when it comes to somebody like Yeet or even that space where it's like they're trying to, it's like a specific sound that is trying to be done, and they're kind of like existing in a subgenre, basically. Opium is a subgenre. Kanye West, I don't know what he's trying to do anymore. Does it? Genuinely, I don't even.
He's all over the place, and it's like this is why he's in the morass. Like, remember he used to have a direction with his projects. Like, remember those days?
Yeah.
Like those days are done, and it's funny because I have in my notes here, which we didn't touch at all, is like he's doing this whole no singles thing, and it's less a full album as a whole. Which obviously he's a big enough artist to do that.
Yeah.
But I think the no singles thing is two pronged. Where one,
he doesn't even know what the single is now.
There's not even a rhyme or reason to the single. You can't decide what the single is. And as well, like not being kind of friendly with the music industry. It's like that single's not going to get radio play. It almost hurts the project to have a single that flops in a sense.
That's true, actually. That is true.
And then on top of it is like, how are you deciding which of these lanes you want to go down? Because I think there's enough different sounds on here that it's like, had Fried been the single, I think Fried probably would have been a popular song if it had been the single, but it also sounds very much like Carnival.
Yeah.
And so are people going to come to this project being like, are we getting 12 Carnivals now? Because Fried is the single. So how he even does that, I think is very interesting. But he's just in a unique place in general where he's probably not aging as gracefully as the other artists who are his age.
Yeah, it's looking very Russell Westbrook-like right now.
Yeah.
It's looking very James Harden-ish right now.
I would say
not even as good as James Harden. It's looking very Westbrook-like.
It's looking very Paolo Prigioni.
A little Andrea Bargnani.
Yeah, yes.
Like it's looking, I'm gonna say this genuinely, it's looking pretty washed right now.
He's
looking washed.
He's looking washed, and I think before we get into lyrics, I do think he is like 100% not the person he was like as a musician for sure. But some of these ideas that I'm seeing, again, a song like Slide or even Fried is like, I don't like Fried that it's like similar to Carnival. It's different-ish, but very similar to like the biggest song from your last project.
Yeah.
But I go back to, if Gunna had a Fried on his project, that would be the first song we mention.
Yeah, maybe.
And it's like, I love Gunna's production. It still feels very similar, whatever, 4 albums in to the production. And it's like, how are we evaluating what we want more from an artist? It's like, this artist that is trying different things over and over again and doing things a little bit left. It's like, we want you to execute it for sure, but it's like, again, so much of the center of hip hop is not doing that. And like, think about us giving 21 Savage credit for having these R&B adjacent songs when it's like, that's not world breaking. For 21 Savage, it was.
Yeah.
But it's like the goalpost of what's experimental and what's different for this artist. It's like Kanye has, I guess, ran that whole table a million times well, where it's like, what's left for him to do that's gonna be that experimental? But he's not in that space. He's in a place where he's more in the center, but his version of the center.
But here's my analogy for Kanye now. Is like, you know, there are multiple like people. I always try to analogize like music to like visual art. There are people who make sculptures out of marble.
Yep.
Right? And then there are people who paint, you know, they're on like on their canvas, you know, they're doing their, I don't know, their 5x4 or whatever, 8x6 canvas painting. And then the person who sculpts, right, does not intrinsically make you a better artist than the person who paints, even though it takes more work to do the sculpture.
Yep.
The sculpture is bigger.
Yep.
The sculpture is more intricate, right, than whatever the person is doing with the painting, right? So even though Kanye West is going for these grand ideas, these grand experiments, like a song like Promotion, right, where it's like using like, you know, pianos, it's almost like gospel, but it's combining with trap. these are like things that you can attempt. You can attempt to make, Statue of David, right? And then somebody else can be like, I'm just gonna make sure that I'm making this cool abstract painting of black and white cubes or black and white squares. And the person can like, you can both be like, I'm done. And the black and white squares can be more impressive, even though it took quote unquote less work, quote, right? It took less time or whatever to make those than the sculpture that looks like, Cthulhu combined with a lobster, right? So I think that is what's happened with Kanye West now, where he's attempting grand scale things, but failing at them at this point now. And even though that people are making smaller ideas, smaller projects, they're succeeding at bringing those to fruition.
Yes, the execution is there.
Right? So I think that's how I view Kanye now. I'm like, okay, cool. He's going for grander things or things that are like more experimental or just like mashing ideas that most people would not think of, but it's not working. Like the idea is a cool concept. But the execution of the concept is not happening anymore.
Yeah, it's not. And I think that's something I'm going into more of my reviews thinking about, is like the artists who we ask, when are you going to do something different? When are you going to do something? When are you going to change it up? And go back to Future. These past two projects, he had a few songs on there, and I'm going to give Metro the credit because Metro is kind of the architect of all that, where you saw production we hadn't really seen from him before. And doing songs where it's like, we hadn't really seen him do this in years. And the execution, I think, was helped by Metro, but it's even of what we're asking of the artist.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I'm at, is like, what are we asking from Kanye at this point? Like, I think at this point, we kind of would be okay if he didn't experiment, because he's experimented enough. He's shown us he can do that, where it's not like a Future who it's like, please do something. Any experiment we'll be cool with, But it's like Kanye is like, the experimentation almost holds less weight because he's been the experiment king.
Yeah.
And so at this point, it's like, honestly, I would like if you just did a decent trap album. Like that would be enough for us. I want to talk about lyrics. Like,
I already said my lyrics at the beginning, I think. Unless you you can go into more lyrics if you want to.
I don't remember what song this is from, but I'm gonna read it anyways because it basically doesn't matter. He says, 20 the new 30, but you still 30. Every time you fuck him, why you feel dirty. Put you on the team, gave you a new jersey. Met you in New York, drove you to New Jersey. You don't need to work, girl, you too pretty. You the reason why your friends bought new titties. You know what's coming next, you gotta move with me. Found out you fucked a nigga that was cool with me. When they seen us on the net, yeah, dude, it hit me. How you ain't got no business, but you too busy. For your homegirl, got that work done, she charged $250. All I ever wanted was you to be true with me. House up in the hills like Drew with me. Same house back in school that you drew with me. We both make mistakes, but is it you with me? You know I'm crazy, but you crazy glued to me. That is probably the best rapping I've heard from him on this project. And the actual rhyme schemes of true with me, drew with me, crazy glued with me, that's not bad.
Yeah.
Like that itself is like, okay, there's some level of skill here. And go back to like, there's artists we reviewed on other projects where if they did this, we'd be like, you're up now, But I think what really made this stand out to me is what he's talking about. And it's almost as if lyrically he's gone back in time, because having all these bars about the fucking the same people I'm fucking and getting your titties done.
Yeah,
it's
how
like,
much it costs and stuff like that.
It's like, who is this person? Like, the Kanye when he was 27 was
never would have rapped that. Like
never. That. And so like 40 plus Kanye rapping about this stuff, it really reminds us when we did the CLB review and we were like, Drake, is there anything else you can talk about here? Like, we get it, you're in the same place. Like, to see Kanye kind of regress.
Yeah, he's become more juvenile in what he raps about. There's even that song or that lyric where he's like, reach hand in the popcorn, but it was like my dick or some shit like that. I'm like,
it's like,
it's become so juvenile.
And it's like, he's had some of these like sexual bars before, of course, that like are a bit funny and stand out. But I think this whole verse, it shows like, if you didn't know who Kanye was and you heard these lyrics or read these lyrics and they said, guess how old this rapper is,
you're like 16.
You're guessing 25. Like, and so to see him kind of go back in time in that way is interesting. But how I highlighted it is he kind of has gone back in time. There's that thing that people say when someone gets divorced, they go back to the age they got married at. And Kanye is a recent divorcee. Like he's starting a new life in a sense, not leaving his family, but
Mhm.
separating from his wife, not being around his kids as much. And like this kind of feels like divorced rich man bars. Like going through a divorce is probably tough in general,
Mhm.
but going through divorce as a billionaire is probably a whole different ball game.
Right.
So it's like these are the bars he's giving us because I think that Kanye's personal life, from what we've seen and what we've seen online, is in a different place than a lot of regular people his age. And I think about 444, that album from Jay-Z, which kind of was a company album
Yeah.
to Lemonade. And people call it Jay-Z's most mature album, one of the most mature albums in hip hop history. And I think the difference in that is that Jay and Beyonce stayed together. And so like that's a different album than them breaking up. And so
Yeah.
maybe again, if you wanted to go sliding doors, if they break up, do we get these kind of bars from Jay-Z? I'm guessing probably not. Jay-Z's always been a mature
Yeah, he's
rapper.
definitely somebody that raps about like
Mm.
his life in a different in a way that is more stable,
Way more stable.
much more stable.
And I think that's kind of the point I'm getting to is like Kanye was unstable in a relationship.
Yeah.
Like unstable as a married man. Him as a recent divorcee now,
Yeah, the wheels are coming off.
this is what we're gonna get. So I do want to give him some credit for at least showing us like the real him in a sense in his lyrics. I think that's
Yeah, in the most weird and twisted way.
yeah, because it's like I think in hip hop it's so normalized that we aren't even critical of it.
Mhm.
And I'm trying to personally not fall into that trap of like, okay, it's okay, rap about your car another 10 albums. Like,
Yeah.
it's fine. Because everyone's doing it, it doesn't matter as much. When I think hip hop has shown us, especially with the dudes who are aging, like Styles P, like Ghostface, like Nas, that's like I could talk about other things as I grow older and not make it sound outdated or like I'm old. And so
Look at Larry June.
like a Larry June, like a Black Thought. So the fact that Kanye is giving us some kind of realism to his life, I think is something because again, a lot of the center of hip hop, even that's where he is now. Like most of the people on his project aren't doing that. Like most of the artists on this project are the artists that are like, we're talking about the same thing
Yep.
over and over and over again. It's like, I just want to know what you're actually going through.
Okay.
Just give me that. So even if it's not delivered well, I'm always going to champion that because I think that's where hip hop should be and should be heading.
Okay. So what about what it means for the rest of his career? I think this is something I've been thinking about overall for Kanye. Just because I think we are in I don't even think this is like really a thought, this is more like a fact. We're in the worst stretch of music in his career.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much since Donda, which I didn't think was good, but that was some people thought was okay. From Donda till now, he's been on this backslide of just disaster.
Yep.
Disaster. I'm just talking about musically. I'm not even talking about I'm not even talking about on his public persona aspect. He's just been on this crazy backslide, these bloated albums. He's just totally in like enamored with black. Like everything is black now. Everything is dark now. Like everything, and it kind of just like coincides. Like everything kind of like sucks now. Like everything is just like devoid of color, devoid of ideas. Like I just feel like this black, like this fascination with just like black is kind of just like resembles just like it's over. You know, like it's done. Like this is the finality of the black. I'm just like everything that he's showing, like with the black, and like he even like in his album cover, it's a face of somebody else, right? It looks like they're dead. Like I'm getting a finality-ness to his music in a way that's like ran out of ideas. I've run out of lyrical ideas, run out of production ideas. I've run out of stylistic ideas. Like this is 3 albums in a row where it's black. You know what I mean? So he's just I just feel like he's out of ideas. That's what it feels like to me. And this album in particular, there is now, I've run out of ideas because we're hearing, you know, motifs that existed on the first Vulture, right? And just like his lyrical prowess is literally at its worst.
Yeah.
And we're also getting to this point where it's just like there's nothing to grab onto. Like I don't like, you know, like so when I think about like what it means in the context of career, I'm like, I think we're getting to that point because we're even getting to the point now where the first Vultures were like we might put him in the NBA Youngboy zone because it's that bad.
Mhm.
Right? And now I'm like, I'm only bringing it up. The only reason I want to review this is because it got to a point where I'm like, I'm shocked by how bad the music is now.
It's crazy. I think it's actually better than the first one.
You think it's better than the first one?
I think it's better than the first one.
I cannot believe that.
And I think for his career, it's almost neutral. This is neutral to me because I think that a lot of people loved the first one. I was like so surprised.
Mhm.
If you look at the numbers of hip hop albums of the year, like it did extremely well, even after the initial release.
Yeah.
And I think like people like us just kind of like shat on it right away, almost forgot about it. Maybe a couple songs we played.
Mhm.
But for a lot of people, this was like one of their favorite albums of the year.
Crazy.
And I think that's why I call this a neutral, because the space between what the casual thinks is happening with Kanye and what the listeners are doing or his fans are doing, that space is growing with each release. And I think Donda was the first time I saw that, where Donda, I was like, it's okay. There's a couple songs on here that I played, but there's like 21 songs on here. I played maybe 3 songs.
Yeah.
So that's not a good ratio for me. But there are people who were like, no, I still run that album. Like I play that album in the car with my kids. Like, so the space between what we think of like these are bad projects
Yeah.
and what the fans think is growing with every project. And I think that almost kind of helps his legacy, because the core fans, which used to be us,
Mhm.
the core fans are like still playing it, still pushing success, having these albums chart well, do well, while the mainstream is saying it's shit.
Yeah.
And I think that almost fits the story he's telling of the mainstream turned their back on me, but I'm still doing it.
Mhm.
And I think that like that's why for his career, this to me is a neutral. I don't like, as much as it's not good, like he hasn't put a good project in 6 years.
Yeah.
As much as I think that's true, it's like the album that I again didn't listen to as much, maybe played 2 songs from. And not people online, people in my life who I know are like, no, I'm bumping that still. Like men, women
Mhm.
from all ages. And I'm like, really? Like, are you just playing with me, or does you really listen to this? And people really are. So this project, I feel like it's gonna have a similar effect, where we're saying, you know, probably not gonna be a vinyl cop,
Yeah.
not a no skips,
No.
not gonna listen to it as much.
No.
But I think that this is like, you know, the mainstream Kanye fan who's like, no, I want another 808s, or I want another late registration.
Mhm.
There's a whole group of fans, and I think what he's done is he has a younger fan base now that he's almost counterculture. The same way Playboi Carti has all these songs with big artists, but is still considered underground.
Yeah.
Kanye is kind of in that spot now. And so to me, this just feeds into that energy where this era, I think, is going to be seen as the underground Kanye era, where it's like these albums are obviously big albums because it's Kanye, it's going to go number 1, whatever it is, but we're not listening to it. But there's a group of fans who are, you know, 25 and under,
Mhm.
or like this kind of sound from him, who are playing these over and over and over again. And the song I think of is Carnival from the last project. I remember being at a house party and hearing that song come on, and I'm like, okay, cool, like, you know, cool song, whatever.
Yeah.
I have other songs on that side project I like a lot more, but the reaction from Carnival coming on, you would have thought it was Can't Tell Me Nothing.
Right.
And I think that it's coming to a place where, I said this before on this podcast, is it's almost like you need to know that you don't know, of like, in my circle, we don't rock with this, but I need to at least be aware that a circle does.
Yeah.
That space is growing every day, where it's like, in your circle, it's like, we ain't listening to Kanye no more.
Mhm.
There's a whole other circle that we don't even know what's happening, and we're there bumping it. And so I think this, even though it's neutral for the present, I think in the totality of his career, it's actually going to help.
Wow.
Because having that, I guess, kind of fandom, excuse me, for an artist as big as Kanye basically doesn't happen. Like an artist as big as Kanye having like a second underground era of your music, where like the mainstream knows about you, but the underground's listening to you. What other artist has that kind of time in their career?
Yeah, I guess so.
And so I think that's going to be almost a plus for him in terms of building that legend, because I think about all the artists who their stuff gets shot on. Someone like a Yeat, even.
Mhm.
The mainstream thinks Yeat is garbage.
Mhm.
The Yeat fans think he's the best thing to slice bread. So
Album
it's like
of the year? 2093? Album of the year?
people like you. So it's like those who will build the legend of Yeat, where it's like he can have 5 albums in a row that don't get ranked highly, but the underground is like, nah, better than the last,
Yeah.
better than the last, better than the last.
So
So I think that's Kanye's in that zone, and I'm trying to be cognizant of that because I'm not one of those people. But I learned from Donda and the first Vultures that those people are way more than I think. And I was assuming at a certain age group, like a lot of people who are older than me telling me they're listening to the Vultures one. And I'm like, you're
What?
33, 34, really? And so like how like, you know, shocked I was to hear that. I'm not gonna make that mistake again and assume that that's not happening. So I think this will be a neutral for him.
Okay. So obviously it's not a vinyl cup. We mentioned that before. How do you feel about the album cover? I kind of already mentioned how I felt about the album cover, where I'm like, it's black. We've been doing black.
I think that's Larry Hoover on the front, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. But I guess issue with the album cover, because I don't think the cover is actually like horrible. I think this album cover kind of fits where he's at, and it kind of matches what's been going on in his life for the past few years. Obviously, there's the Larry Hoover concert. He mentions him on the record. You talk about him wearing black a lot and covering his face.
It's a picture of it's a features a masked it's Ty Dolla Sign, not Kanye. So,
there you go.
Dressed in all black, holding an image of his brother Jabril, Big TC Muhammad.
Oh, that's TC.
Yeah.
Okay, I love the cover. Free TC. I love the cover. Nah, Free TC is one of my favorite projects.
Oh my!
I didn't know that. Free TC. I love it.
Okay.
I love it.
I still feel the same way about the blackness, even if it's Ty Dolla Sign. Like, no matter what, if Kanye is attached to it, he's the senior. Unless
he's a headliner.
Unless you're like literally Jay-Z, Drake, Kendrick Lamar, fucking Taylor Swift, Adele, or some shit like that. Kanye, it's a Kanye album. You happen to get the and you get the and sign instead of the feature brackets, right? And I think like this black, right? Like this lack of color is just like, it's old. Find something new to do, bro. Like the fact that the colors are sapped from anything that he does, it's old. It's tired. Do literally anything else. Do literally anything else, right? And then we'll be back in like something that's kind of interesting. Like I think the holding up the photo, like it's basically he's trying to do a photo within a photo. Sure, right? But like it's not evocative. It's not provocative to me. It's not provocative. Anything that another thing about Kanye's music now, it's not provocative. Like he used to be a master provocateur. It's not at all anymore. So I'm just like, I
hate that I'm gonna defend Kanye right now.
What is important about this cover, bro? Like what is interesting about it? I don't see it.
Well, I think if you're saying it important and interesting, like we're asking a lot because there's many covers that are important or interesting that we like. So I think having those be the factors is like a Kanye thing.
You think it looks cool?
No, I don't think it looks cool.
So what are we talking about then?
but what I did notice that Kanye has done over the past few years, which as much as I don't love that he's doing this, I understand where he's doing, where when you see this person in the mask, you assume it's Kanye. And I think that is like what he's pushing here of like the visage of the mask he's made so synonymous with him. Whereas like, imagine you see someone in a mask and you assume it is Kanye. You can't see who's under it. But again, we thought this was Kanye this whole time, not Ty Dolla Sign. So it's like, that's what he's pushing, where he has all these different eras of dress that you kind of see as him. This is this era. Now, most of the eras he has of dress don't make it on the cover of a project.
Yeah.
So that's a whole, like, not since graduation have we seen that happen. So I think that's a whole separate thing. But I think what he's established, and we're examples of it being successful, where this all black mask leather thing, anyone wearing that, you're like, Kanye. Similar to Tyler with the loafers and the colors. So that to me is just an extension of him pushing that, of like, this is that kind of dress. But as a cover outside of that, I don't love it. I think the name of the project's not on here. You don't know who's underneath that mask. I did not know that was TC, free TC. But I think for them, the rules are a bit different, because this is going to be a cover. You're going to be like, I know what album this is by this cover. And it being the trilogy, like I don't know what the next one's going to be, because they've done Kanye and his wife. They've done Ty. Maybe the next one will be Kanye and Ty together. But these are the kind of covers that, even though I don't love it in the present, you're gonna see this cover 10 years from now and know exactly what album this is, exactly what era this is, exactly what this sounds like. And that for a project
Yeah.
doesn't come around a lot. So it's for that to still be something that they have at this point in their careers, kudos to that.
Okay. So, do you have a score for?
You're not copying the vinyl?
No.
It's not a no skips
No.
for you? No, you don't want to think about it at least?
No. Not even close. Okay. Where do you have? What is your score
Mhm.
for Vultures 2 by Kanye West and Ty Dolla Sign?
Vultures 2 to me is a 5.5.
Wow, I am actually shocked by that. I cannot believe that.
Like it. I like it more than the first one.
I can't believe that.
There's some songs on here that I like. I think I'm just way more focused on Ty Dolla Sign, and Ty Dolla Sign absolutely is eating all over this project. And I think that there's better production on here that fits him better. Kanye's rapping,
Garbage.
a whole different ball game. But
Genuine garbage.
No, a whole different ball game. But I think that there's so many instances where rappers are not great lyrically that we like give a pass to. That even though I'm someone who loves lyrics and likes rappers who are lyrical, it's super disingenuous for me to say it's okay for Ice Spice to be able to barely rap, but it's not cool for Kanye to be able to barely rap. So in that sense, I'm just giving him kind of a neutral score for his trash rapping.
Wow.
Instead of taking away points. So for me, this is a 5.5. Not making any top 10 lists for me. I'm not gonna listen to this album in full anytime soon, that's for sure. Definitely not copping the vinyl. But this album, I think, has enough bright spots that I can give it an above average score.
Okay. So for me, Vultures 2 by Ty Dolla Sign and Kanye West. This is a 2 out of 10. This is trash. Like, I think that Kanye's existence on the project as like a vocalist is like a weight that is tied around every song and dropped into the ocean. Okay? It drags every single his voice, because he's like, even his singing on a song like Fried is bad. Like, it's actually just genuinely awful. Rapping is terrible. And then his persona, or just like his literal personal life, envelops the entire project, as it does with all of his music, and thus it's pulled down by it, right? There's crazy amount of baggage on anything that he does, and it's gotten to a point where I'm putting, not even tentatively, this in the NBA Youngboy zone, where I just don't, unless something drastically changes, I just don't understand. I don't see how it gets better unless he becomes a better rapper, or he actually starts caring about the music and like literally not having incomplete songs on the project. I feel like that is something that is not because the songs he's literally mumbling.
Yep.
Right? There's 2 songs where he does that. There's one song where it's like the bridge, where he's just like, right? So for me, it's almost an incomplete, because some of the songs are incomplete. There's fucking YouTube rips on it and shit like that. So like, this is a 2 out of 10.
Damn.
Free Ty Dolla Sign from the grips of Kanye West.
I'm screaming.
Please free him somehow. Get him out of this guy's midst, because like, it's got
too much.
Like, it's got to the point where I'm just like, I'm stunned overall that this is what Kanye West has been reduced to, like, musically.
Yeah, it's tough to see. I'm not gonna lie, it is tough to see. I guess I'm happy that he's at least putting out music in a sense, even though I don't love it.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of like The Simpsons, where you're like, oh, The Simpsons is one of the best shows of all time, and then you're like, yeah, the first like 15 seasons are sick,
and then after that,
and then there's like, yeah, but there's 30 seasons. So that's where it's gone to me, where he's like season 25 of The Simpsons, like. I guess people are technically watching, but why are we watching? Why are we watching? Because it's not good anymore. I don't understand why we're watching anymore. I'm not watching it anymore.
Yeah, I guess I'm not at the point where I think Kanye's washed. I think he's not good anymore.
Washed.
Because I think that some of the production things on here that I hear, I'm like, yeah, there's still some kind of creative mind there to even try these things. And I think that to hear those attempts, I'm like, Yeah, we just need him in a super reduced role. Like, he needs to be Ray Allen on the Heat. Like, right now, he's Ray Allen in Milwaukee,
Yeah.
and he needs to be Ray Allen on the Heat. And it's like, still a good player, but just in a super reduced role. So I want to hear what you guys think. All the Kanye fans, all the Dolla ign fans, let us know in the comments. Did DeMar rank this too low? Did I rank it too high? Let us know what you think. I want to see what everyone's favorite song is off this project.
Me too.
Because he does do the no singles. Maybe it's Fried. Maybe it's something else. I want to know what the songs are that you guys like off of this project. So in the comments, name your 3 favorite songs from this project. Of course, find us on the interwebs at Album Mode Pod on Instagram, Album Mode Pod on Twitter, Album Mode Pod on TikTok, on YouTube at Album Mode. Like this video, leave us a comment, and of course, make sure you're subscribed. Until next time, know yourself, know your worth.
Later days.